Today is Tuesday, November the 7th, 2023. It's a few minutes after 6 p.m. Let's go ahead and stand and have a word of prayer and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear God, we just thank you so much for this beautiful day, Father, and we just thank you, Father, for the blessings you give in life to us, Father. We thank you, Father, for allowing us all to gather here safely and conduct parish business, Father. Tonight we ask that you be with the sick, Father, those that have COVID and those that have the flu and ain't feeling well, Father. You just place your healing hand on them, Father, if it be your will. And may your will be done in all our lives, Father. First, in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
All right, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call. Yes, I'm here.
Mr. John Wascom.
I am here.
And Mr. Randy Gillette, who is absent.
Yeah, we don't have a quorum tonight. Mr. Randy and Aaron contacted me earlier today. They had some other things going on in life, and they wasn't able to make it tonight. But it's important that we go ahead and have this ordinance committee meeting. We'll kind of go over some things that we think is important to go over that's on the agenda. And it's not necessary to take any action. We don't really have to vote on anything tonight. We can just kind of talk through it, make sure everybody's fully aware of what the intent and purpose is. And a lot of this will be on the council agenda Thursday night, and that's where we'll take a vote and actually take some actions there. So, and just in general, I just want to let you know, for the future, Councilman, the ordinance committee is really more like an advisory committee, to the council. So we work to improve ordinances, modify ordinances, and make good recommendations to the council. It's at the council, that the action and the ordinance is really introduced and modified and adopted, and laws changed. So,
Phil.
Say that. Go ahead.
When you get ready, I'm going to say something.
John wants to say something. John Wascom.
I would like to say, to the camera guy, if you don't mind, spin the camera around the audience and catch Mr. Joe Erdy. I want to say thank you for coming tonight to the Ordinance Committee, and congratulations on your victory to being elected to the Parish Council. I think District 8, is that right? Or 9. District 9. I think they're going to be very well served by Mr. Joe Erdy. So thank you so much for.
Me too.
Thank you.
You have any comments you want to say to the thing?
Thank you, John.
Come to the podium.
Come on up.
Because they're going to put you on TV, and we want everybody to see. And that mic here. You want to take this one real quick?
Well, it needs to be plugged in anyway. Get it working, pretty please.
Raven, while it's warming up, you can use this one. Okay. I mean, just leave it there. Just leave it there, and then just use this one until it's warming up.
Well, first of all, I want to thank y'all for having me here and inviting me up here to speak and all. And look, I'm all in on this thing for the coming year and the new council meeting and all that. And I watch y'all do a lot better job than y'all get credit for. I'm going to tell y'all, I've sat through many a meeting since I decided to run, But my heart and my soul is in District 9, and including the rest of the parish to help the folks on other areas, not just District 9. But with me, you get all of me, and you get the best out of me, because I've never done nothing in my life except 120%. So I'm in the learning phase, and I'll be leaning on shoulders left and right till I get it down myself. And I just want to say it the proper way, and I thank y'all, and just be patient with me, because at the end results, I'm gonna give y'all a good job. And I want y'all to all know that, and the people in the audience behind me, and wherever this is going out to. So at the end, you're going to get good results when I pick this up and learn how to do every single thing the appropriate and the right way. And I thank y'all for that.
Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Appreciate you, Mr. Joe. Yeah.
And I just want to say hello to Mr. Caleb Atwell here, and a few other ones, and Dean Coates.
Councilman-elect Dean Coates.
Dean Coates. He won. Dean, you want to come up real quick and
You want to come say something?
give us a quick... You got 3 minutes, so keep it short.
All Dean Coates. Thank y'all for allowing us a little time to speak here and to say he won. Well, to me, that was never a question. Just joking. The council has a lot to do in the next 4 years, and I'm looking very much forward to being a part of it. Been watching these council meetings for over a year now, and I think we're heading in a new direction. I think it's a direction that people have spoken, that's the direction that they want to go in. So just tell people to stand by, and we're going to right the ship. So thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you, Dean. All right. Old business. This is agenda item 3A. This is discussion and recommendation of suggested amendments by Alvin Fairbairn and Associates to describe the meets and bounds, legal descriptions, and a more detailed depiction of the adopted council district reapportionment maps. Is there anybody here from Alvin Fairbairn Associates that would like to speak on this agenda item? Yeah.
House Montgomery, I'm Fairbairn Associates. So we were asked to generate some new maps for the new council district boundaries. And we received the maps and descriptions from your consultant who did that. And going through it and reading it, basically, you know, some of the descriptions had a few errors. Some of the directions were kind of off. There was a lot of redundancy. And a lot of unnamed roads and some unnamed waterways and such that we found their names and added them in there. Just try to make it a little more simple and easier to read for anybody. So that's about it.
Eddie had called me about this and told me the same thing and said, really, it's just tidying up the paperwork that needed to be done. Now, Miss Sandy did have some questions when she was transcribing them. Am I correct, Sandy?
This was adopted and sent to the federal government, and it's been sent to the Secretary of State. It's been filed, and it was wrapped in a neat package. It was a done deal. So if anything's changed, it needs to be amended by ordinance.
Which is what which is why it's at the ordinance committee right now.
To tell them that y'all have detailed the meets and bounds more.
Yeah, we're just making a suggestion and trying to make it clear. It's up to you guys whether you would like to adopt that or.
I'm sure we'd like to get it right and then adopt it as an ordinance and then.
We had no idea y'all were doing this. We found out as a fluke. Mary Kistler.
Well, we were only going to generate the maps, and then we got to make sure they were right and reading them. Wow, this kind of doesn't match the the maps. So
the parish president's office had requested maps, and Mary had asked if we were getting maps too, and I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
And that's how we got involved. And I was like, well, the council's the one that adopts
you was comparing the
boundaries.
The degrees and measurements, and you saw a little difference, I think you said, in them. And
we have gone through and have marked all 9 districts with what y'all say and what the discrepancy is.
How long is it going to take? Or they're done now? So this is they're done. Okay.
Is there a lot of changes? Is it just that you were making it more accurate? It was accurate before, but it's more detailed and more accurate now? Or is it actually changes in the demarcation lines?
Maybe a few in the demarcation lines, but just a lot of, head north when you should be heading south type of stuff. So, and a lot of redundancy, like stay on Perkins Road, go west on Perkins Road. Keep traveling west on Perkins Road. Keep traveling west on, just get to the next.
Just get to the next. You don't have to repeat yourself.
Stuff like that.
So what are you recommending? Do we reintroduce these maps at the next council meeting? Is that
the legal description?
The legal descriptions.
The maps are correct. The legal descriptions are off. So.
Okay. Well, I tell you what. Why don't we do this? Why don't we reach out to Mr. Moody? See what he advises, and then I guess we'll move forward with.
Let's just adopt it, Shane.
Okay, I'm not saying we're not. I'm just saying it'd be good to get his opinion
on how to move. Okay.
Well, just get his opinion and feedback.
Our demographer used real high-tech software for all this, so it just wasn't as detailed.
And if it's better
with the area
and more accurate, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Like when there was some where it starts off on an unnamed waterway, and then goes to an unnamed road, and it's like, well, that unnamed waterway, is Coyote Creek, It's kind of hard, how are you going to start off on a waterway when you have no idea where it's at and it's unnamed, just stuff like that. So, trying to make it easier, a little more simple to read.
Appreciate your hard work, Dallas, and trying to make it more accurate for us. And
Thank you.
but Sandy, you think you could just reach out to Moody and just get his feedback, and
And then we'll put it on
we'll
the
introduce it
agenda.
Thursday? It's already on there, right? It's on the,
I don't think it is.
not?
So we'll put
It could
it,
be under the, reports.
did we introduce it at the last council meeting? No, so we'd have to do it for an introduction. Okay.
We'll put it on the next agenda if it's not on there.
The 30th?
Yeah.
The 30th?
Yeah. Let's plan on that.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Anybody else have any feedback or discussion? Anybody got any comments on this agenda item?
I'd just like to ask you a couple questions. You said y'all are doing the description on it, is that correct?
No, they're hired a consultant to rewrite the district boundaries and description. It's into us. When we were looking at the map,
Okay.
we just made some corrections.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you what, when I was campaigning and looking at the redistricting maps, they were very difficult to read in a lot of the situations, even when you would zoom into them. Some of the streets couldn't be couldn't be read, and some of it was just, I found it to be very confusing in District 8. So I don't know if anyone else had anything like that.
Probably need to update the quality of maps on the website.
Right.
Appreciate that, Dean. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on. Agenda item 3B. This is a discussion and recommendation of amending section 125-1, definitions for large lot subdivision requirements. I requested this be put on the agenda and these changes be made. It was to my understanding when we created the large lot subdivisions, the intent there was to, give developers some incentive to develop large lot subdivisions. Basically, the regulations that are required to develop subdivisions with improvements, we removed a lot of that, those requirements, to incentivize them to develop large lot subdivisions. It was to my understanding when we created that ordinance that this was supposed to be for subdivisions, approximately 40 lots or less. The intent there was not to use that ordinance to create subdivisions of, over 100 lots, 200-300 lots, right? Some of those requirements that were removed was you don't have to have a paved road, you don't have to have community sewer system, and things of those types of things, right? My memory, I don't have it in front of me, but my memory recalls you don't have to have a gravity drainage study and things like that. So I think the minimum lot size was 2 acres, but you had to have a density of 3 acres per lot in the subdivision. So, but like I say, I think that there needs to be a cap on the lot, how many lots you can have within that development. And so we modified the ordinance to cap it at 40 lots total if you were going to develop a subdivision, large lot subdivision, under the requirements of a large lot subdivision, that the maximum amount of lots you could have, if this is introduced and passed and adopted, is 40. Okay? And then the intent there was also to allow for individual sewer treatment facility or sewer treatment plants.
The current is 20, correct? 20 lots?
No, it's no cap right now.
Okay.
It's 0 cap. So basically, you could you could have a 200 to 300 lot subdivision, under this ordinance, because there's no cap. I think the requirement said basically anything more than 90, you had to have, sewer treatment facility, some type of community sewer collection system. So these are the changes that I'm proposing be made. We're going to cap it at 40. So I don't know if anybody has any feedback. Does anybody have any feedback? Would anybody like to comment on that? Provide your opinion on whether that's a positive change or negative change. Do you support this change? Or do you not support this change? Do you feel like there should be a cap? If anybody's got any feedback, that'd be great. If not, we can move on to the next agenda item. This is going to be introduced on the next council meeting, at the next council meeting. We have, thanks Sandy and Raven. Sandy and Raven made some copies of the changes. They're on that front table right there if anybody'd like to have a copy. All right, sounds good. Well, if you think of anything that, any feedback you'd like to provide between now and Thursday night when this is introduced, this is on the agenda, requested to be on there. So you can come to the council meeting Thursday night and provide feedback. Come on up. It's going to have to meet the requirements of Class A, B, and C, to the best of my knowledge. No, I think they said that, I think it's 20 feet, and you got to have shoulders. I don't have it in front of me, but that's a good question. I think we need to review that when we introduce it Thursday night, so we can have that information Thursday night and discuss that. I think it's a 20-foot road, but it can be limestone or gravel, and it's got to have open ditches.
Utility right away through this also for the phone, cable, and electric?
There should be a utility servitude, absolutely. Sandy, do you know, what does it say about the utilities? Let me look that up. I don't have that section in front of me.
Is that the one you want to see?
Say it again.
106, 125, 106 utilities, is that what you're looking for?
Basically, what are the requirements when it comes to utility servitudes when you're developing a large lot subdivision? Let's see.
Utilities shall not
It's
be
basically-
situated or located under any parish road, street, ditch, number C on the back.
Yeah, C on the back says utilities shall not be situated or located under any parish road, street ditch, or road, street bed, except if the utility is located perpendicular to the road, street bed. It doesn't really say that you have to have a utility servitude. It just basically says you can't locate it or in a road ditch. The utilities would have to be placed on the backside of the road ditch unless it was crossing the road. Maybe we need to go back and look at that and modify that also and require some type of drainage servitude, utility servitude, something to that effect.
So the parish is going to accept gravel roads for these subdivisions. We would be responsible to go back and pave these after a certain amount of time? And who would bear the expense, the parish or the developer?
That's a great question.
It would be a private
You don't have to
road,
walk away. It's to my understanding it would be a parish road, and the parish would have to maintain it. There's not an actual requirement that the parish has to go and pave it. Now, would it be paved in the future? It's a possibility it could be.
I thought we got rid of the graders back in the day because we didn't want gravel roads. And I'm all for the large lot subdivisions. I think it's a great deal because you go buy 50 acres of land and do your subdivision with no problem. But your taxpayers are going to be footing the bill to pave the road, and plus you got to have the utility right of ways. That's what I was asking. So normally you got a 50 or 60 foot right of way on the parish because you've got to have your utilities to go through, and it's got to be a common area.
Does this have a lot of road size in here, Shane?
You pulled it up. Raven's got it pulled up.
I do know that Go ahead. Would you say, John?
Does it have roads width in here?
It's found in a different section, a different ordinance, but in order for it to be a parish road, you're going to have a 60-foot servitude. And that servitude, I guess, within that servitude would be the utilities, the road, and all that type of stuff.
What you're amending is a definition.
It's not a specific dedicated utility servitude, but it would just, the whole 60-foot servitude, you'd have the utilities and everything else within that, the ditches, the road, all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's in the street section.
I think this ordinance needs some work. I think it is an improvement to cap it at 40. This is probably something we should put on the list to enhance in the future. Talk about some of those things you've brought up and make sure that what we intended it to be.
I'm sorry.
Well, we want to make sure that we're being responsible, and developing a good subdivision that people that live within there are going to be happy with, and I think that that's important.
It's on the bottom.
The definition is
it's on the bottom.
Anything about streets and what large lot subdivision that you're doing.
See. Right away, gravel roads with closed drainage, or to have a 50-foot right of way.
Okay, so it's to my understanding, basically what they're saying is they have the street standards printed here, and it talks about Class A, Class B, and Class C roads in the requirements. Class C? Not to my understanding, no, not for large lot subdivision. Class D didn't require open ditches. You don't even have to have roadside ditches. So to me, D wouldn't qualify for this. All right. Any more questions, any more feedback on modifying that large lot subdivision ordinance? Thanks. Sounds good. We'll move on to the next one. This is agenda item 3C. This is under old business, discussion and recommendation of introduction of an ordinance for carbon sequestration regulations of Class 6 wells. Okay, so we discussed heavily this ordinance in the last ordinance committee meeting. Received some good feedback, and we don't have the modifications and changes that were recommended in the last meeting in an ordinance format tonight, but we're planning to have that in ordinance format for Thursday night. Okay, what I can tell you is that we do plan to incorporate in that ordinance a lot of the recommended changes that was discussed in the last ordinance. I'd like to read those changes to you that we discussed as soon as I locate that piece of paper.
On the back.
There we go.
Try to save papers on front and back.
Thanks, Sandy. Okay, in that last ordinance, it talked about the wells, having to have a permit, and it talked about the wells needed, in order to receive a permit, the well needed to be 2 miles from a residential structure, but Mr. Holden recommended that, what if you built your house next to the property line, and it was within the 2 miles. So we decided to go make a change, and we're going to require that to be 2 miles from adjacent property lines. That should be found in the ordinance that we plan to introduce Thursday night. We talked about the owner-operator of the Class 6 injection wells. the local fire departments need to be compensated in order to handle any type of emergency response. We talked about the local fire department be, I guess you could say, receive training, and the cost of that training be provided by the owner and operator of that injection well. That company that was planning to do that would have to cover the cost. That'll be in the ordinance for Thursday. The emergency response plan, they'll have to have an emergency response plan and some type of alarm system. This alarm system, in some way, shape, or form, would need to be approved by the emergency response plan, the alarm system, the rescue plan would have to be approved by the parish administration and the local fire chief that would be responding to that emergency. This alarm system is going to have to alarm the community, and it's going to have to be it's going to have to be an alarm system that actually works and notifies the public, right? It can't just be an alarm system that doesn't work, and it's going to have to be tested, right, routinely to make sure that it provides the service that it's required to provide. See what else we got listed on here. We talked about requiring a security bond for the duration of the project. The owner-operator would have to we would require a security bond for the duration of the project, and then the bond would need to cover the project. It's going to need to list who's responsible for decommissioning the wells and who's responsible for capping the wells. We're gonna put that in there, and then of course, all state and federal laws must be met to protect the sovereign public. And a lot of the other requirements in the ordinance that were reviewed in the last ordinance meeting would be in the ordinance. Does anybody have any feedback or any communication they would like to provide, discuss? Come on up, Mr. Joe.
Shane, you was talking about the alarm system
Yes,
that's
sir.
going to be
Yes,
set
sir.
up?
Yeah.
Okay. My question is do we have any information yet on how the alarm system works, and how far out in diameter does this alarm system going to kick in and go?
That's a great question. So
Yeah.
here's my thought there. Y'all help me out if you disagree or agree. I hate to put in the ordinance exactly how the owner-operator's alarm system, should work.
Notify people.
My thought there is to put some requirements in the ordinance and then let them come back with a game plan on how they plan to notify, how the alarm system, how they plan for it to work, and then allow the administration and the local fire department approve that rescue plan and that emergency audible alarm system, right, to make sure that it meets, the intent and is acceptable,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
And then if it doesn't, of course, they go back to the drawing board and enhance it until it does get approved, right? And it works.
We have to have what you call a diameter area,
Right.
and
Right.
that we have to know all that, and
Right.
how's it going to go I'm sorry. There's my glasses.
They're going to need to have you're right,
But,
they're going to need to have a plan,
Yeah.
and they're going to need to develop this system that's acceptable and that works to notify, the residents so that they can evacuate in case of an emergency and have enough time to evacuate, and that type of stuff.
Right,
To me,
that's the key word, evacuate.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say
and the
next.
plan would need to be
Yeah.
approved by the administration, right, and the local fire department.
You got to give people time to get where they
Right.
need to get to, and that's the whole thing about the alarm system. That's the
Yeah.
deal. All right, that's what I wanted to
I mean,
thank you.
how do y'all feel about that? I mean,
That's the only way you can do it.
to me, that's
Shane.
the only way we're going to be able to do
I mean,
that.
because for us to try to invent the wheel, other
Right.
people do this already with
Right.
plants and stuff. They have
Right.
emergency notifications. So let them do the work, bring it to us, and we'll pick it up then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can change, modify, whatever. We can ask for more,
Yeah.
except what we got.
Right.
Either way, so
Right.
let them get started on it. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Come on up, buddy.
One thing, it still needs to be connected directly to the 911 system, directly. That needs to be in there to get the first responders out immediately.
100% agree. That was noted in that last meeting. We didn't put it on our notes, but we're going to make sure that that's incorporated into that ordinance for Thursday. If something happens and we don't get all this, written and ready to go by Thursday, then we'll introduce it at the next council meeting. But I want to get this done before the end of the year. And we're running out of time. I think we got 3 council meetings left, so if we don't introduce it Thursday, then we're going to need to introduce it at the next council meeting. Anybody else have any questions or input?
Just real quick, Mr. John is right. People do this all the time, other parishes. I wouldn't say get with EBR because it's a very populated area, but if you go to St. James or maybe Iberville that has chemical plants and get with their EOP, they could probably give you a pretty good blueprint on, they test their alarms monthly. I can hear it a mile away in the plant, so, So I'd say St. James or Iberville.
Just for the record, just state your name.
Jeremy Glasscock, 29960 Marsh Drive. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Jeremy.
Anybody else?
I knew he had some
Come on,
wisdom.
Dean.
He said he just comes to watch, but he's always got some wisdom when he talks.
Dean Coates, I'd like to discuss the compensation because I saw a recent news story or something on Facebook, so we know it has to be true, that referred to $1 million that Air Products specifically has stated that they're going to provide as compensation for all of the first responders around the Lake Maurepas area. $1 million is not going to go very far at all if you're distributing that in that vast of an area. So we need to come up with some sort of plan, or the council needs to come up with some sort of plan in order to make sure whatever compensation that they're going to provide is going to meet the needs of the first responders that are going to be dealing with it.
That's a very good point, Mr. Dean. I agree with you 100%. What I can say is this is private property, and so we want to put something in there about compensating local government, schools, fire departments, and things like that. It's going to take a little more time to come up with a compensation plan. This basically, I guess you could say, make sure that law allows us to be able to put something in there and require that. So I think for this ordinance, we'll probably leave that out, but I do think that's something that needs to come back up and be discussed and added to the ordinance at a later date.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Caleb Atwell, 32695 Cypress Drive. I was just going to reiterate what Dean said. Is maybe that's a job for the next council, but you really do need a comprehensive list of things for whenever you've got one of these companies coming in, because even with private property, if they're having an impact on Livingston Parish residents, then you need to, you can list those out. I mean, we'll take Lake Maurepas for example, even though that I understand that that's not covered in this ordinance because it's state land. I mean, you got to have equipment, you've got to have additional monitoring. It may involve extra, staff that have to be on site. I mean, those are a specific set of things that say, hey, you're coming here, you're causing an impact, and you've got to compensate these individuals. And we really don't want any of them coming in here in the first place. So if they're going to come here, then they need to foot the bill for all of that. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb.
Anybody else? All right, we're going to work very hard to change and add all those recommendations to the ordinance by Thursday night. I think we can get it done. So it'll be an important meeting to show up to and provide feedback once we have it finalized and written to help us make sure we have it written best we can to provide good quality life for the people, keep everybody safe. As soon as we get it finalized, we'll try to distribute it to the.
Put it on our website.
We're going to put it on our website so that y'all can have access to it. Hopefully, we'll have it before the meeting so that you can study up on it before you get here. If we have to, we'll defer it, but we need to try to get it here pretty soon. All right. This old business is discussion and recommendation. This is agenda item 3D. This is discussion and recommendation to amend Chapter 117 zoning to modify and establish updated zoning classifications. This was previously introduced a few months back. Okay. I don't know if y'all have a copy or not, but basically this deals with the classifications and land uses when it comes to zoning regulations in Livingston Parish. We knew that when we adopted the zoning regulations that the classifications and the land uses within those classifications needed a lot of enhancement, a lot of modifications, a lot of changes. Several months back, 2 or 3 maybe, time flies, it might have been 6, but the ordinance committee worked, I think some of y'all were here, to make those modifications. We had 2 or 3 meetings where we discussed those modifications. We put it on the council agenda, and we had planned to introduce it. And then in the council meeting, we decided to hold off and wait for the planner to basically rewrite the classifications and land uses. Since then, I've learned that I'm not so sure that where that's going to go, right? What I mean by that specifically is, at this time, I'm not sure if the expert planner is planning to rewrite those regulations or not. So the thought is if we're going to follow these zoning regulations in Livingston Parish, then we need to go ahead and modify these classifications and land uses as soon as possible, right? Now, we can introduce these modifications. I think it makes the zoning regulations much better. If the new council so chooses, they can modify them more so in the future. They can remove zoning, remove these classifications completely if they so choose. But for right now, as we require people to follow these zoning regulations, I think that these changes are absolutely necessary, and they should be introduced and adopted as soon as possible, because the current classifications that people are being required to follow, to me, unfair. So Go ahead, Sandy.
One of the things that we don't know how it happened, but for R2, mobile homes was taken out of detached single
Yeah.
home. And instead of doing a separate ordinance, I had spoken with Council. He was the one that, at the last meeting, that wanted to make sure that was in there. It's in this classification for all of it. It's for under single-family residential.
I agree.
It's in red. If you do want it to be separate, I can do another ordinance that'll be separate.
I don't think it's necessary to be separate.
Yeah,
We're going to introduce this.
We don't know how it was taken out.
We're going to introduce this Thursday, and we can just put it in there, and it can be in there for the introduction. So basically what she's saying, there's a lot of modifications here. There's copies on the table up here if you want to get a copy. But basically, we rewrote the land uses within R1, R2, R1.5. Unclassified classification was removed, basically. We added it back. We made it better. It's much more user-friendly to me once these modifications are adopted than it is today. Of course, we welcome any feedback, at the introduction stage, at the council meeting, and when we go to adopt it at the following council meeting.
But I'm only going to give you 3 minutes to talk. Just kidding. So talk long now if you want.
And let me go ahead and say that, if the people, right, that we care so much about and the people that we represent feel like there needs to be more modification, or that these modifications, is not what's best, then, we can just not adopt it. But I think this is good for us. So one of those changes Sandy just spoke about was the land classification R2, right? And R1, R1.5 allowed for mobile homes, right? R2 did not allow for mobile homes.
It was in there, but we don't know how it was taken out.
Somehow or another, it's currently not in there. So we're requiring people abide by zoning regulations, but if you're zoned R2, which is residential, you can't be permitted to put a mobile home in there.
Government office really was asking us to.
And so
that back as
we're going to make that modification and allow that. Anybody have any feedback on that? Like I say, you're welcome to get a copy. It's a lot. We added some definitions also, right? Because in our land uses, we would define, schools and home-based businesses were, small businesses and things of this nature, what a bed and breakfast was, and all this type of stuff. We wanted to go back and define that so that it would be clear on what's acceptable and what's not. I want to let you know that the current version that's on that table up there, when it comes to home-based businesses, is going to be modified before Thursday. That was one of the things that we discussed in the council meeting that night. One of the reasons why we didn't introduce it that night was because we wanted to go back and modify the definition of home-based business. We're going to go back and modify that some more, so that'd be something to pay close attention to make sure it's what's best for the people of Livingston Parish. All right. Like I say, that's an important one. Next agenda item. This is new business. This is discussion and recommendation of amending Chapter 10. This is animal and fowl by removing the provisions of LP Ordinance 00-36 that states that this ordinance shall take effect only upon funding being appropriated for implementation. Basically, this is an animal control ordinance. There's some verbiage in there that basically says that the ordinance is not effective until it's funded. So this recommendation is to take that wording out and basically say that it shall be effective.
I'd like to comment on that.
Good timing. Go ahead.
I know Mr. Delat just recently got elected to the parish president, and I know for a fact that he's working very closely with one of the most outstanding animal care providers in Livingston Parish that I know of, Ms. Maurice Durbin, and they are working really close to improve and enhance Livingston Parish's animal shelter. And I know they have a plan set up and they are moving forward. I don't think that the council should move forward with changing anything right now regarding our animal shelter until Mr. Delat and Ms. Sandiford get together. And I don't think this will take them very long. And by actually making these changes, it might tie their hands a little bit. And so I'd just like to see us hold off on this ordinance until Mr. Delat and Ms. Maurice Durbin and the animal shelter team that they have together put this, implement and get their plan in place. So I'd just like to see us push this back. I mean, and whoever put this on the agenda, which was Mr. Talbert, evidently he's not here tonight to explain why he wanted to do this. So I would like to just see us hold off on this until Mr. Delat, the new parish president, will implement his plan. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. I was going to say that I agree with John.
Everybody agrees with John tonight. Well, there's one that probably won't, but he's not here.
John's right. I mean, the current, the parish president-elect, Mr. Randy Delat, is working to develop a game plan and fund animal control. We need to allow them to work their plan. So that's my 2 cents on that. So we're not planning on taking any action tonight. I would ask the council to hold off and let the new administration and the new council.
And Ms. Sadie, we'll just convey that to them. We'll convey that to the council. Is it on the agenda for Thursday? It's not even on the agenda, so, all right. Well, maybe.
Hey.
You could talk about it under committee reports at the end of the meeting.
Well, we could do that. Or not.
All right. Any more feedback on that agenda item? Okay. New business, agenda item 4B. This is discussion and recommendation of amending section 58-6 type C roads, the criteria for accepting existing roads into the parish maintenance system. There was a regulation that existed since I've been a councilman, and we've accepted some Class C roads into the maintenance system under this regulation since I've been a councilman. I had somebody contact me. They had a Class C road. They were going to get the parish to come out and inspect the road and make sure it met the Class C road requirements so they could get this road accepted into the parish maintenance system. And when we got to digging into the regulations, we couldn't find the regulation. Somehow or another, it was mistakenly deleted, to the best of my knowledge.
The entire regulation for C?
The entire Class C regulation requirements.
It refers to section 125-17 that does not exist, and it's in 4 different ordinances mentioned. 125-17. It's supposed to be 125-70. A year ago, whenever all that ordinance 125 was revamped, and somehow or another that part didn't get taken care of.
Okay.
So basically, I'm going to introduce an ordinance Thursday night to just basically
Clarifies one.
Put it back in there.
Type C road.
Put it back in there where, it was, to me, when we adopted that ordinance to modify 125, we never communicated, we never spoke about, it was never the intent to remove Class C roads. It just somehow or another was mistakenly, I don't think it was intentional, I think it was just a cut and paste and delete type error, and it was removed. So it needs to be added back. So we're going to introduce that back. And so that's the plan there. We're not changing it. We're not modifying it. We're just going to take what existed previously, and we're going to add it back. I can. I have it written here somewhere in this pile of paperwork here. And give me just a minute to find it. Do you have it?
4 different ordinances that make mention to.
Well, do you have the old copy, though, that needs to be introduced? I thought I saw it here. You don't?
In ordinance form. The ordinances, how it was listed.
Can you go? Well, if we don't have a copy of the old Class C acceptance criteria, that's what we're looking for, where it used to talk about the width. It's got to have so much of rock bed.
It like says refer to section 125-17. So when you try and refer back to that section, there is no 17. It's supposed to be 77. It used to be 17, 125.
That would be great. I would really appreciate that. It would save me some time. We do. We have backup copies that we could pull, but it'd probably be faster if you gave it to us. How fast? Tonight? Sandy said she can get it tonight. Can you go get it and we can read it?
I wasn't involved in all that revamping of 125.
I know.
I wasn't a part
know.
of that, but I can definitely get it.
Would you go get a copy real quick? We can take like a 3 or 4 minute recess, and she can get us a copy, and then we can come back, and then we can finish this. I can read it to you. It won't take but a second. It's not that long.
Yeah, I would just like the definition of the ordinance.
Yeah. All right. 4 minute recess.
Channel 17, proudly serving the Florida parishes.
Okay. But I think if you need to do an open,
We'll make this quick.
open records request to see the line item details of that.
Back to you, James.
Hey, you're all by yourself.
You ready back there? Okay, so we're back at the ordinance committee meeting, and the recess is now over. I'd like for you to know that we have several copies of the Class C road acceptance criteria. We're trying to find the latest version. We're struggling to figure out which is the latest version, and so we'll have that ready for Thursday night. So there's no vote here, but we're going to say this meeting is now adjourned. I appreciate all of y'all coming to the meeting. Appreciate all of y'all's feedback and input. Yeah, I need a second. Anyway, y'all have a great night. Be safe.